The forgotten hero, Phaethon and the Chariot of the Sun. The sun rose as it always did, fiery and golden, spreading its warmth over the world. Yet in a quiet corner of a grand city, a boy stood apart from the waking bustle, his fists clenched, his heart storming with doubt. Phaethon had always known he was different. His mother, Clymene, had whispered the truth to him since he was young. He was the son of Helios, the god who drove the sun across the sky. But the world did not believe so easily. "Prove it," they jeered, their voices sharp as stones. "If your father is truly the sun, then call him down from the heavens." The taunts weighed upon Phaethon like an anchor, their scorn burning deeper than any flame. No longer could he endure the whispers and the laughter. No longer could he bear the doubt that gnawed at him, a quiet voice in the back of his own mind. And so, one night as the world lay still beneath the stars, Phaethon made a choice. He would seek his father. He would find the palace of the sun and claim his birthright. Phaethon's journey took him farther than any mortal had ever dared. He traveled beyond the lands of men, past forests ancient as time, over rivers that whispered secrets to the wind. 4 days he walked until the earth itself began to change. The land became golden and warm, the sky brighter, the very air thick with power. Then at last he reached the palace of the sun. It was more magnificent than words could capture. A citadel of gleaming gold, its towers shining so brightly they seemed to burn with an eternal fire. The very walls hummed with energy, pulsing with the rhythm of the sun itself. At the heart of the palace sat Helios, the sun god. His form was blinding, wrapped in robes woven from pure light. His crown was the sun itself, radiating waves of golden fire that flickered and danced around his head. The moment Phaethon stepped forward, Helios turned his gaze upon him. Even in his divine brilliance, his eyes softened. He knew this boy, recognized the fire in his spirit, the same fire that burned in his own veins. "You have come far, my son," Helios said, his voice deep and resonant. Phaethon's breath caught in his throat. "My son." He had never truly dared to hope. "I came to know the truth," Phaethon whispered. "To know if I am truly of your blood." Helios rose from his throne, stepping forward. He placed a radiant hand upon Phaethon's shoulder, and in that moment the boy felt the warmth of the sun itself. Not just heat, but something deeper, something alive, something that filled him with a power he had never known. "You are my son," Helios declared. "And to prove my love, ask me for any gift. Anything. I swear upon the river Styx, the unbreakable oath of the gods, that I shall grant it." The moment was perfect. It should have been enough. But doubt is a cruel thing. It does not fade so easily. And so Phaethon uttered the words that would seal his fate. "Let me drive your chariot across the sky." Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. For the first time in eons, Helios paled. The light around him dimmed, his golden aura trembling like a candle caught in a sudden wind. "No," he said, his voice grave. "That I cannot grant." "You swore upon the Styx," Phaethon insisted. "You promised." Helios' expression was shadowed with sorrow. He had made an oath, one he could not break. But he would try to dissuade the boy, for the alternative was unthinkable. "My chariot is not a toy," Helios warned. "Even the gods fear its power. The horses that pull it are wild as the storms, and the path they follow is treacherous. If you stray too high, the world will freeze. If you fly too low, the earth will burn." But Phaethon, blinded by pride and desperation, would not listen. "You said I was your son," he whispered. "Then let me prove it." And so, with deepest regret, Helios led his son to the celestial stables. The chariot of the sun was a marvel unlike anything on earth. Forged by Hephaestus himself, its wheels burned with an eternal fire. Golden and immense, It shimmered as though made from molten sunlight, radiating the heat of 1,000 summers. The horses, Phaethon and Phlegon, stamped and snorted, their manes flowing like streams of fire, their breath rolling in waves of searing heat. "Hold the reins tight," Helios instructed, his voice laced with fear. "Stay on the middle path. Do not let them sense your fear or they will run wild." Phaethon climbed into the chariot, his heart pounding. This was it. With a crack of the whip, the horses reared, their hooves igniting the very air, and the chariot shot forward like a falling star. For a moment it was glorious. The world spread out beneath him, oceans and mountains stretching vast and endless. He soared over the lands of men, bathed in the golden light of the morning sun. But the horses were not fooled. They sensed the hands that held the reins, weak, uncertain, afraid. With a wild cry they broke free of control. The chariot shot too high, soaring into the heavens. The air grew thin, the world below shrinking. The sky froze. The stars shuddered in their places, ice forming where there had only ever been fire. Then the horses plunged downward. The sun's flames licked the earth, setting forests ablaze. Rivers boiled, deserts cracked, cities crumbled. In his panic, Phaethon pulled desperately at the reins, but it was too late. The world was burning. And from Olympus Zeus watched. Zeus, father of gods, had seen enough. The balance of the world hung by a thread. Fire devoured land and sea, and if he did not act, all would be lost. The great god raised his hand. A thunderbolt formed, crackling with the power of the heavens. Phaethon saw the storm gather above him. He tried to plead, tried to call out, but the words never came. The bolt struck. The chariot shattered. The horses fled. And Phaethon fell. His body, still wreathed in flame, plummeted like a dying star, crashing into the river Eridanus. The nymphs of the river wept. His sisters, the Heliades, stood by the banks and wept until the gods took pity, transforming them into poplar trees, their golden tears falling into the waters below. And Helios, consumed by grief, hid his face. For the first time the world was left in darkness. Phaeton was not a god. He was not meant for Olympus, nor for the fires of the sun. But he was a mortal who dared to reach for the sky. And for that he was remembered.